Good evening, and welcome once more to the television graveyard. We are your TV necromancers, Laura Prince and Noah Houlihan. We have come here tonight to examine the spirits of past television shows, to find out what ones could be resurrected, should be resurrected, and which ones should just stay doomed. This will be a podcast in which we analyze the history, the hype, and the aftermath of shows that ran only one season, with some running only one episode. This month, we are in the land of the Spoopy. But for tonight, we are on the bridge between adult animation and Spoopy. With me, as always, is Noah Houlihan.
For America!
For America. This week, we have done The Amazing Screw-On Head.
The Adventures of the Amazing Screw-On Head?
The Adventures of the Amazing Screw-On Head.
It's a lot of words. When I looked for it, I just put in Screw-On Head. But I believe it's The Adventures of the Amazing, or possibly The Amazing Adventures of Screw-On Head.
No, it's just called The Amazing Screw-On Head.
Okay.
You gaslit me.
I'm asking. That's not gaslighting, that's curiosity.
We are doing the 2006 single episode run of The Amazing Screw-On Head, as requested by one Mr. Jeff Stormer of the Party of One podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for that suggestion. And yes, this is a single episode, so if you haven't seen it, links are in the description down below.
It's 22 minutes. You got time.
Yeah, you can give it a watch and then come back and listen to us. I highly recommend that one. So this is it's an odd show.
Yes.
The version that we ended up watching, I'm not sure if it was the rip that we had, but did you notice in the beginning it had horrific frame rates?
I did not notice that.
It was like it chugged, like it kind of like jittered, and it didn't look right to me. Like the animation was not smooth.
I wasn't sure if that was intentional, given that it was an odd show.
Perhaps it just, I don't know, it felt very jarring. But this is the story of, this is going to be really hard to explain.
It's a Civil War story, in which Abraham Lincoln...
Is it?
Well, Abraham Lincoln's president.
He did other things.
But he was only president during the Civil War, Noah.
That doesn't make it a Civil War story.
I feel like the Civil War was going to come into play.
Perhaps we'll never know.
It was a Civil War era story. Look at this pedant. You've already been wrong once, and you're still going to be pedantic?
They're questions! Some breeding discussion! Go ahead.
It's a Civil War era story about a top secret agent who is actually a head. A screw-on immortal head.
Yes.
He works for Abraham Lincoln. He has the seventh in his line of manservants.
Yes.
All of Mr. Groin.
Mr. Groin, his manservant. And he is on occasion called on for top secret missions, usually regarding some sort of supernatural. And I say usually in that, like, this is the only episode. So in this one, it deals with supernatural things.
And his arch nemesis is Emperor Zombie.
Yes. We open our episode with a very special evil document. They say many times it's an evil document.
We're in the rare and dangerous books.
Yes.
Depository.
And this document is stolen along with an expert by two old women, one of which is a werewolf, and the other is the pyro from Team Fortress, and a monkey.
With a machine...
with a machine gun.
With
and a crown. What was that about?
I imagine we were going to find out more about him.
Okay.
I feel like there's there's only 22 minutes. I feel like we didn't delve as much into all the minor characters as
the minutia
we would
of the show
if the show continued.
So they steal this document, and Abraham Lincoln contacts Screw-On Head to help, but because of his personal relationship with Emperor Zombie, he can't ask him for help. So Screw-On-Head has to volunteer.
Screw-On-Head. Calling Screw-On-Head. Screw-On-Head. Screw-On-Head.
Coming, Mr. President. Yes, sir.
Tell me what you know about the Kazakhstan fragment.
Scrawled on unshaven goat skin, it supposedly details the life of Gung the Magnificent, who nearly conquered the world in 9632 BC using supernatural powers derived from a fabulous melon-sized jewel.
Supposedly?
The fragment is untranslatable.
And missing. It disappeared from the Museum of Dangerous Books and Paper, along with their foremost expert on ancient evil texts.
Professor Fruin?
He was abducted by 2 horrible old women and a monkey.
Sounds like Emperor Zombie.
Sounds like you're right.
Then Fruin's deciphered the fragment.
And Zombie's got them both. The belly's telling me he's scratching to finish the job Gung started 10,000 years ago. Given your personal history with Emperor Zombie, I can't ask you.
Then I'm volunteering.
I don't think it was that he has to. I think it was like Lincoln going, well, I can't ask you for help, and then Head just doing it anyway and being like, well, I'll volunteer.
Yeah, it wasn't like he's not allowed. It's more of like, I respect you and wouldn't ask you to do this. And
I like that he used ye old FaceTime.
Yeah, he uses some sort of like weird box that his mouth kind of flips like a flip book.
Yeah, it's ye old FaceTime.
Yeah, and his eyes can change. It's very odd. It's, that idea of doing...
The animation style in this is ripped straight from the one-shot comic book it's based on.
Okay.
Also called The Amazing Screw-On-Head.
Yeah.
It was a one-shot comic book, and the art style is very similar. Lots of yellows, lots of purples, lots of black.
Yes, kind of looks a lot like Hellboy. And I also imagine that this was created the same way Batman the Animated Series was. I would guess this was drawn on black paper.
I would imagine, yes.
And they added color to black rather than coloring white. Because I can't think of a time I saw white.
Only certain characters' skin.
Yes, okay, alright,
Patience and Mr. Groin.
Yeah, okay. So, Screw-On-Head has his head screwed onto a body. And he explains...
He has a number of bodies. They use number 13 for
Lucky
this
13.
episode.
And he explains to his manservant that Emperor Zombie has killed every one of his manservants before Groin.
Yes.
And that Emperor Zombie was his first servant.
Yes.
And then he turned evil, and then he vengeance kills all of his manservants.
Yes, all of his subsequent manservants, and steals his girlfriend.
Yes. His girlfriend, Patience, he loved dearly, and he was about to tell her that he loved her.
Patience. You make me feel alive and full-bodied. I look into your eyes and see there's a life outside my head. I love it.
I want to say it first. I love...
Mine now.
Damn you, Mr. Manifold! Excuse me. Damn you, Emperor Zombie!
She's turned into a vampire in front of him.
Which I really liked that twist on the women in refrigerators and, the killed love interest as motivation. Because she's still there to rub his face in it.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like before you let me get brutally murdered and turned into the beast I see before you.
Yeah.
Like, she's real petty about it. I really love... Molly Shannon is the voice of Patience.
Yes.
And she's brilliant in this. It's
Yes.
not a Molly Shannon role you would picture, but she's great as Patience.
Yeah, she is fantastic as Patience. And her introduction We watched this twice.
Yes.
I should mention that we did watch it, think about it for a little bit, and watch it again. I didn't catch this the first time.
Okay.
When Patience originally shows up, she talks to a mummy?
Yes.
And did you get that the mummy had two voices?
I did not.
The mummy had two voices. It sounded like an echo. Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't a mummy. She lights it on fire. The cloth and skeletons falls away, and it turns out that it was being controlled by two bugs.
Oh.
And then she squishes the bugs, or is about to, before Screw-On-Head shows up to stop her. And I was like, wow, I totally missed that the first time I saw
that.
it. Yeah, there's a lot of weird things like that go by very quickly. This doesn't feel like a pilot.
No, I actually enjoyed it because it didn't feel like a pilot. It told a really good story while building a world.
Did it?
I think so. You set up and temporarily defeat Emperor Zombie, but not kill, because he's going to be back. You set up another big bad in Patience.
I'm going to have comments about that after we review what happens in this.
Okay.
Because I have a problem with that. So, Emperor Zombie, we should mention that he captures Patience and tortures her for information.
What? That Screw-On-Head does.
Screw-On-Head.
Yeah, that's really important because that sounds like something that your villain would do.
Yeah.
It's something your hero is doing.
Yeah, since she's a vampire, she turns into a bat. They catch her in a cage, and then they just keep hitting her with sunlight.
And by we mean essentially Head.
Mm-hmm.
Because the president, Mr. Groin, and their undead dog.
Mr. Dog,
who is the best. He's a dog. He's the best. Mr. Dog are all just kind of sitting there like, what are you doing?
Yeah, this is a bit much. And there's a conversation that happens with Lincoln, and we're gonna have to play because it's very confusing.
Perhaps you should lower your voice, Mr. President. Groin's been rather invasive and a tad familiar as of late. He could be hatching a plot.
He's not zombie. Groin's looking out for your behind, Head. You can't keep him at arm's length.
Oh, that's all intentional.
I know it's all intentional. But, when I heard that, I was like, were they going to do this for, multiple episodes?
Oh, yeah.
Was every episode just going to be, them trying to get as many body part puns into it as possible?
Yes. Yes, it was. I'm certain of it.
Okay.
Did you not like this show?
I have feelings about this show. I liked it a lot more the second time. I really didn't like it the first time.
I really enjoyed this one.
Interesting.
I liked the humor in it.
My feeling, because we got to talk about David Hyde Pierce.
Yeah, David Hyde Pierce plays Emperor Zombie and does not attempt to change his voice at all.
No, he doesn't, which makes it amazing.
Yeah, it is Niles as Emperor Zombie. And his plan is to find this temple, and the information is on this document that only this one person can read. Yes.
So, to gain the information that this person has...
What is the meaning of this?
I thought I was clear. You know something I don't know.
I'll tell you everything.
I want to know what this says.
The scroll of Gung? It's untranslatable.
Why steal a book you can't read? That's silly.
I was attempting to translate it.
Ooh, how far'd you get?
Not very.
You're no fun, piggy little professor keeping Gung's secrets all to himself. There's only one way to truly know everything you know.
Ask politely.
I'm going to smoke you.
He smokes him in a hookah.
Just big old bong.
It's just a big bong, and he just smokes him. And
later he's like, and they said smoking people was bad for you.
Bad for you. And thus, they're able to find this temple. And in the temple, he has this long speech about how he wishes Patience was here. And he, very Niles, trips over himself.
Yeah, because he insults one of his other minions.
Yes.
The older woman who turns into a werewolf in the first scene.
Yeah.
Because werewolf.
Yeah. I mean, because I wish Patience was here. Because, she's not... Because she's not as old as you. I mean, she's old, but not as old as you. Not that way. Ooh. Very, very Niles.
Because the old woman is old-looking and Patient is still young and beautiful because she's a vampire.
Right. And, the whole time we're in the temple, we really don't understand what the plan is.
Right.
Other than, what was the guy's name? Ga?
Yeah.
The Temple of Ga?
Yes. Temple of Gung.
Temple of Gung. And I did really enjoy...
Ooh, look, it's Gung.
Foolish mortal.
Do I look mortal to you?
Because he really doesn't. Kids.
Bang, 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 bang.
He looks like, crazy zombie. Everyone is very ugly in this show, except for Mr. Dog. Mr. Dog looks like a dog. That's not even my, bias toward dogs. He just doesn't look...
So he comes all this way through this temple to get what turns out to be a turnip?
Yes, with an alternate universe inside.
With an alternate universe inside, and Screw-On-Head wants a trade, because he has Patience, and he's going to stake her through the heart.
Yeah. I love this exchange a lot.
This is pretty good.
Nobody moves or Patience dies. Again. Permanently.
Ah, yes, if you can't have her, then no one can. Patience, darling, do I have permission to let Head stake you if it means world domination?
Yes, my love.
I really liked Molly Shannon in this. Yes,
Yeah.
my love.
They then open the turnip, and a demigod comes out.
But not like Maui from Moana.
Yeah, not Maui. He doesn't sing "You're Welcome."
Be a
But
lot cooler if he did.
He is still kind of quirky and funny, though.
Oh, yeah.
Your poor, sad, insignificant brains cannot conceive of the horror that is coming now. Right now. Right this very instant.
And when you could tell when watching it, right now, at this very moment, is when a commercial would have come on.
Yeah, there was definitely a commercial break there.
It was definitely the, sting before a commercial.
Absolutely. And they then have to fight a demigod. So Screw-On-Head gets another body, which is like a spider body, so he can fight this demigod. It's very odd, but it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Mr. Dog, did you come to save the day? David Hyde Pierce is great in this.
Yeah.
At one point the dog busts in to, try to save everyone, and that's his reaction.
Yeah, that was fun. This whole segment is fun. They defeat the demigod. How did they even do it? The body explodes or something. Yeah. Through an explosion they defeat him. And the temple fills with water. Mm-hmm. And the spider body grabs Emperor Zombie and falls down into the depths of the ocean.
Taking Head with it.
Taking Zombie with it.
No, taking both, because then...
No, Head's under a rock.
Oh, right.
And...
Because Gung reemerges with Head.
Yeah, so you see as Zombie, goes away and we're left...
Damn you, Head!
Yes. And we're left with Mr. Dog and Mr. Groin standing on the beach, and Head emerges because Gung brings him to the surface. And did you catch that Gung then got a political position?
Oh, yeah. Gung face turns.
Yeah.
And becomes what would assumably be a character
moving
forward in the series.
So then...
The whole pilot's really a Gung origin story.
Yeah, it really is. There's like an emotional beat of Screw-On-Head explaining that his greatest ally has been defeated, but it was also his greatest friend.
Yes.
And then Patience kidnaps Mr. Dog.
Yep.
And that... Oh, then we have a moment at the end where
we're in the Oval Office.
We're in the Oval Office, and it's the kind of pilot-y teaser ending of like, you've saved the day. Yes, but there could be more threats at any time. There could be like another episode in a week. There's some sort of history joke I didn't get. If you listen to our Clone High episode, I don't understand history. But then they show Lincoln signing like the Homestead Act or something.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm sure this is a very funny historical joke. That the fact that all this supernatural events happened has led to the signing of the Homestead Act. That's got to be a joke I don't get because I'm stupid.
Because it's a Civil War story.
Oh.
The Homestead Act of 1860 did pass in Congress, but was vetoed by President James Buchanan, a Democrat. After the Southern states seceded from the Union in 1861, the bill was signed into law and passed by Abraham Lincoln. So it is May 20th, 1862, during the events of this. The Civil War is just beginning.
Okay.
Ba-na.
I just don't get the joke.
I don't know if it was necessarily as much of a joke as setting.
It's just setting. Maybe.
Yeah, as setting where we were.
And then it ends with Screw-On-Head saying that he'll be here for America. And we cut to credits.
Yes.
Here's my issue with Molly Shannon.
Yeah?
In the credits, the opening credits where they list everybody, it says guest starring Molly Shannon.
Right.
Kind of implying that she wasn't going to be around anymore. Like that she's not a permanent character.
I could definitely see that she might not be a series regular. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm saying they're setting her up to be the bigger bad.
Okay.
Like, when you have the series like, oh, this is the villain. Like, Emperor Zombie feels more like a Disc 1 final boss.
Gotcha.
Where Patience is... Emperor Zombie was his friend and manservant. Mm-hmm. Patience was the love of his life. Who, 180 some years later, he's still not over.
Yeah. Spike wasn't in every episode of Buffy, so I guess this makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that Patience isn't a series regular the way everyone else is.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I get that. So, what was your gut reaction to this show?
It's ugly.
It's very hard to watch.
But to be fair, like, I'm very aesthetically whiny. Like, it took me a while to appreciate Bob's Burgers. Mm-hmm. Because I still don't particularly like the art style.
Of Bob's Burgers?
Yeah, but the writing is good enough that it forgives every sin.
Yeah. I mean, because one of my favorite shows of all time is Home Movies. And that first season is unwatchable.
Yeah.
Because it is in squiggle vision. And I think it's very good that we watched it twice.
Yes, I agree.
Because I really spent most of the first time watching it going, what the hell is going on? Like, visually, it was hard for me to comprehend it. And the actual storyline is supernatural and confusing. And a lot of things you just have to accept.
Yes.
Like, monkey with a machine gun. Fine, let's go.
That old lady's a werewolf. That's in the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, like, and that's kind of a hard thing to get your brain to, like, wrap around. It's just like, okay, there's werewolves in this world. Got it. But to also have it done in such darkness.
Yeah.
And in such shades that are, like, doesn't represent a world I'm used to.
This reminded me a little bit of Clone High in a way of it didn't bottle feed you the premise.
Yeah.
Like, it just jumped in and was like, accept it or don't.
You know what? I feel like if this had a rocking theme song that explained, he's stuck
way back in the 1680s, he was was with a special lady, and she became a terrible vampire because of his zombie manservant. What was his name? Not Emperor Zombie. He had a name before that.
Got sired. I was leaning into the rhyme.
Yeah, I was trying to remember David Hyde Pierce's character's name before.
Did they ever say it?
Yes, they specifically say it.
Oh, please find that information.
Okay.
Because I have a thing that I'm going to go off on in a little bit that I've been sitting on.
Okay.
And that information is going to be key to what I'm going to say.
Huh.
His name was Rob Zombie?
No, it's just when you look up Emperor Zombie real name, it comes up Rob Zombie.
It comes up Rob Zombie.
Oh, Mr. Manifold.
Mr. Manifold?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Alright, that's gonna...
A manifold is a topological space that locally resembles Euclidean space, so it's a math term. Or it is a pipe or chamber branching into several openings, or something with many different parts or forms.
Okay, alright, wheels are turning.
Because I'm assuming what we would have found is that all of the manservants were going to go down in body, like Mr. Shoulder, Mr. Chest.
That's 100% what I believe. I believe that this entire thing is metaphorical. I think this is all an allegory.
Oh my gosh.
I believe Screw-On-Head is in a coma.
Oh my god.
I know that's like the cliche thing. It's like, oh, he's in a coma and stuff like that. But the whole time he keeps saying, I've been living in my head.
Because he's a head.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the metaphor is, if he was in a coma, he'd be living in his head. It would be the only thing that existed would be his thoughts. And his greatest ally, or his greatest friend and his greatest enemy, is a zombie, which is both alive and deaf. So there's the idea that he is in a coma in between life and death. And the people waiting for him to wake up are being patient. Patience being the love and his connection to the world, which is being ripped away, still kind of there, but they are losing interest in Screw-On-Head in this coma. You're looking at me like I'm freaking crazy.
I'm worried that our next episode is leaking into how you're thinking about this.
No, because I had this thought immediately when we first watched it, before we moved on to the next show. Because there was one moment that I found very, very jarring.
Okay.
And I'm glad we watched it again, because it definitely wasn't my imagination. When Zombie falls into the water, and they pull his head out, that's when Screw-On-Head says, I've lost my greatest friend, who is also my greatest villain. And then his eyes move, and the sound of his eyes moving is the sound of a gun cocking.
Too long I've been living in my head, friendless and alone, scarred by past betrayals. I must learn to trust again, and damn it, Mr. Groin, you're gonna show me how.
I mean, that might just be the Foley,
It could be, but I got one more thing that leads into my theory on this of him being in a coma.
Okay.
All of this leads up for Zombies looking for something, and he finds it in the Temple of Gung.
Okay.
And it's a vegetable.
So he should have been healthy this whole time.
No, vegetable as in a person in a coma. It makes sense to me that after all of this, we lead to something that's just a vegetable, but inside of it is something greater that they are trying to pierce through.
Is a parallel universe, okay.
And awaken. Yeah, and it's a parallel universe. So my theory of him always being in his head is this whole thing is an allegory to a person in a coma. That's my theory. And the thing that, like, really irks me about the show is, especially after seeing it a second time, I don't see how it works as a series. Like, I don't see how it needed another episode in any way. So I was wondering in your research if you found anything saying why this never continued.
So this was on a Syfy internet situation where they were putting a bunch of pilots up.
Okay.
And trying to get you to vote on them going to series.
Oh, okay.
So this went up in July 2006. And it was confirmed in November 2006 that it hadn't been picked up.
Okay.
So the answer is, Syfy just didn't pick it up. Pilots don't get picked up every day. This is just rare in that it's a released pilot, which is not always the case.
Okay. Do you know what won?
No, I didn't look that up. I was only really looking up things that were about this show.
I was just curious. It's fine.
And I don't know if it's necessarily anything won. I don't know if it was the most votes goes to show.
Yeah.
Or if it was, you know, if this gets enough votes, we'll look into it. Maybe none of them went to show. Maybe a bunch of them went to show.
Maybe. I just, there's something about this show, like, the fact that it had such great names in it, because Patton Oswalt's in this as well.
He plays Mr. Groin.
He plays Mr. Groin.
Paul Giamatti plays Head.
Yeah, that's right. It's Paul Giamatti. That's a huge name,
especially in 2006.
For all that stuff to just go into something that could have been a series and then not become a series, I don't know. It seems weird, but you know. Great actors end up in shows that don't work out all the time. I also find it very interesting to find out that it's based off of a one-off comic.
Yes.
And not a series of comics.
What's interesting, though, is this show actually does expand several characters.
Oh, okay.
Particularly Patience. She was just called Madam in the book. And was just like, Emperor Zombie's vampire friend. So giving her that backstory, I think, makes her a much more interesting character and a much more compelling big bad situation. And I really think that's where they were going to go for a series. I hate, as a policy, the it's all in his head, they're dead the whole time, that kind of thing, fan theory.
Okay.
Those just, I find them to be somewhat lazy. This one's better supported than most.
Okay.
That your coma theory.
Mm-hmm.
It's better supported than a lot of them, but I still just like knee jerk. I'm just like, oh, I hate these.
I feel like the knee jerk theory, like hatred towards that theory, is that you can literally pick anything and apply this theory. Like, you know, if I really wanted to, I could prove that Doug and all of his friends are dead in Doug. Like, I'm sure, like, that's why Skeeter's blue, and, like, things like that.
Because you drowned.
Yeah, if I really wanted to, I could prove that for anything. But, like, the fact that this is based off of just 22 minutes, and, like, I just watched it, and it jumped out at me. Like, it wasn't me trying to dissect it. It was just that gunshot moment being like, why that noise? And it, pardon the pun, triggered something in me to kind of like really reevaluate things. So that was just a feeling that I went in with this on the second watching, and a lot of things made sense. I'm not saying it's true.
Now I'm looking
what
at
I want
this,
to choose to believe.
And Patton Oswalt also plays Gung. Now you have to remember, this was 2006. Patton Oswalt was doing well, but he was much less famous than he is today.
Yeah, but Paul Giamatti, wasn't that right around not Cinderella Man, The Contender?
The Contender.
The boxing movie with Batman.
The Fighter?
The Fighter.
I believe this was significantly before The Fighter. I believe The Fighter was 2010.
Okay. But, I mean, this is after Sideways. This is after,
Oh, no, he was in Cinderella Man.
Oh, he was in both?
Yeah. Now, to be fair, though, it's voiceover work.
Yeah, that's true.
This may have been something he done because he did because he liked the book.
Yeah.
It might be something he did because he owed someone a favor.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, this is also after American Splendor, right? So he had just been engrossed in comics for quite some time.
Yeah, and the thing with pilots is commonly they will be recast if they go to series.
True.
Like for Game Over, I believe Marissa Tomei originally played the mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she was recast as Lucy Liu for the actual series.
Huh.
So it's not uncommon for a voice actor to be recast.
Yeah, true.
And really, the show lives and dies on David Hyde Pierce.
Yeah.
And Patton Oswalt was probably not terribly expensive to get in 2006.
That's true. And I don't know what David Hyde Pierce was up to.
He was in Spamalot around that time.
Would he just be finishing Spamalot?
Yes, because I know from personal experience he was in Spamalot in 2005.
Okay. Which
would probably have been when this recorded, to have been released in July 2006. So it was probably, he was in New York. Mm-hmm. This is a 22-minute show. It was probably only a couple hours in the dialogue room.
Another thing that made me not like this show is Emperor Zombie has bugs around his face the whole time.
Yes.
And the first time we watched it, there was a bug that would not leave me alone. So I just felt gross the whole time watching it. Stupid gnat.
I really enjoyed the humor in this a lot.
The second time I watched it, I could appreciate the humor more because I wasn't constantly being confused and overwhelmed.
And I also never have... I have the ability to just buy into a premise. I usually don't have that situation where I have to take a minute to understand. When it was, she's a spy. No, she's a werewolf. All right.
I mean, it's not so much that it's overwhelming the idea of a woman being a werewolf. It's kind of like everyone's kind of crudely drawn.
Right.
So, this woman becomes a werewolf and then becomes a human again and then is the same woman as someone else later. Making those connections are tougher when you don't have something distinctly human or distinctly alive to connect, okay, that is that character.
Okay.
I mean, the thing with the mummy actually being two bugs, you didn't catch that either time we watched it.
No.
I only caught it this time. Stuff like that where I was just trying to make sure I'm piecing together exactly what's happening. It is tough with the animation.
That's the only thing, the only problem I have with the coma theory is that there's too many scenes head's not in.
Okay.
And whenever you have the solipsistic, it's in this one character's head, this one character's in a coma, I always have to wonder about what I like to call the, Harry Potter Chapter 1 moments, where Harry is... the Harry Potter books are third-person omniscient, or third-person limited, rather.
Limited, yes, because they follow Harry.
Because they follow Harry, and we don't know anything else about anyone else's thoughts or emotions. Except for the first chapter of almost every book, we see a thing Harry has no way of knowing about.
Right.
And they try to kind of hand-wave it in the fourth one. That, he wakes up and he's had a nightmare.
Yeah.
But in every other one, he just doesn't know it happened.
Well, my counter-argument to that is his manservants represent his body decaying.
Okay.
So Mr. Zombie is his body. And that's why the seventh one that we're on is groin. And like you said, we were probably going to find out that all the previous ones had a body part name. I kind of took that as him dying in the coma and his body kind of withering away.
Yeah, I went...
That's my theory.
No, I decided to have fun and be like, this is a fun show.
That doesn't mean it's not fun.
He's in a coma.
We're getting real, gang. This is something new that I've noticed is I can still enjoy something that's not necessarily all happy. Because, somewhat, back on the Plus 2 Comedy podcast, our guest yelled at me because I watched Moral Oral, and I was like, it hurts you at the end. They're like, well, why bother? And I was like, because it's cool to have emotions.
It's not. it's not having emotions. Like, I love the musical Hamilton more than I love, like, a lot of people.
Right.
And I watched an animatic of Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story, and cried. Cried like a little child, and have no problem with that. It's the difference between emotion as catharsis, which is what Moral Laurel has, emotion as catharsis, and grimdark, and we're just gonna look for more grimdark. I mean, like this is a fun show about, you know, a head fighting werewolves. We're gonna make it about, oh, he's in a coma.
I don't think that makes it any less entertaining or hurts its value in any way.
I'm not saying it hurts its value in any way. I'm just saying I don't like those theories very much on a personal level. Okay. So I tend to just... I do tend to have that bias where if somebody goes like, oh, it's all in a character's head, I'm like, I'm out. Okay. Unless it's done explicitly, like, you know, what dreams may come situation, where I'm like, oh yeah, it's death. Yeah. Or in a way that, like, I've seen it done well applied to, say, The Wizard of Oz. But The Wizard of Oz telegraphs it a little better. Right. In that Scarecrow is, like, the farmhand she's fond of.
Same actor, yeah.
And that repeat of actors, we don't have any grounding in any kind of real world, I think is the issue. When he goes back in the flashback with Patience, he's still ahead. So I think to make that theory work for me, there has to be some kind of grounding in reality. We're going to talk about this a lot next week.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, do we have anything more to say about Screw-On Head?
Okay. So, let me pull up my notes, because I've been too busy arguing with you. I picked out a bunch of lines I really liked. Pardon me if I say poppycock. Poppycock!
Say it.
Poppycock. And, there's some really good business that, Patience controls rats.
Yes.
And when she has her confrontation with Head, she refers to herself as foul beast, and a rat immediately interjects. And we can't understand what the rat's saying. And she goes, I wasn't fishing for that, but that was sweet. And it's these, like, nice little character moments that Gung has a lot of, and Zombie has a lot of, that I think we're going to drive. I think the show is going to be largely character-driven.
Yeah, I agree that it was going to be character. Like, I feel like it was going to be very Buffy-esque in that, like, it was going to be Monster of the Week plus a big bad for the season.
I mean, it's Brian Fuller. And to those of you who like Hannibal, that name's going to sound really familiar. Because he was the showrunner for Hannibal. So it's that same kind of, like, twisted, weird humor. He was also pushing Daisies. Right. That, like, kind of Wonderfalls, which we're probably going to, you know...
That might show up.
Yeah, Wonderfalls is probably going to be American Gods. Mockingbird Lane. Oh, we're gonna see a lot of this fellow.
Yeah, he could have been Spoopy Month if we really just wanted to let that happen.
Yeah, he seems like a good fellow. But he kind of has that twisted, fun sense of humor. So I feel like he could have run this in the show because Hannibal is based on Hannibal Lecter, right? So clearly expanded the pre-Clarice Starling Hannibal, right, into a 39-episode series that somehow got to run on a network.
Yeah. I heard it was really good, and they were upset it got canceled.
Yeah, I heard it wasn't for me.
No.
I heard it was past Spoopy.
Yes, indeed. So anything else on Screw-On Head?
It's based on an Eisner-winning comic, which won for Best Humor Comic.
Really?
Yeah. So I really enjoyed the... aired online with a poll to determine if it went to series. The characters are much more fleshed out, especially Patience, and the relationships. I really enjoyed this show. Do you think it should have stayed doomed?
I think it should have stayed doomed. See, I think if I was watching this on TV, I would watch another episode. Like, if another episode came on, I would come on. I think you need to watch it twice. after seeing it the second time, I was like, okay, I'm on board now, and I can totally watch more of this. But I feel like that is the average reaction. Is kind of like, oh, this looks weird, and I don't quite comprehend it.
It did take me a minute with the art style.
Yeah, like I feel like the average audience would not give it the chance.
But the art style is directly taken from the comic.
Yeah, and I bet it would work great as a comic. I haven't read the comic, surprise. But, like, the idea of a still image that I can study and appreciate rather than it moving very quickly and, like, making me miss things.
Okay.
I think if the art style was a bit crisper, I'd really enjoy it. Because, like, I don't know. Because also, like, I like the Hellboy movies. I don't like the Hellboy comics because I don't like how it looks.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go against you for the first time. I think this should have it should have gotten its run.
I think if it's gotten its run, we would still be discussing it. I think that's my answer. Is if this got a full season, it would not get renewed. Mm-hmm. I don't think if you are a network,
fair,
I think it should stay doomed. If you like creepy things and funny things and stuff like that, you can definitely appreciate and enjoy this show. But as a television series, it would not have been successful. That is my answer.
I'm not sure I agree still.
Yeah?
I think Sci-Fi was in a good place for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this could have flourished on an Adult Swim.
I bet it, yeah.
That offbeat, creepy, literal stoner humor.
Yeah.
In that, like, the villain smokes a guy in a giant bong. The Adult Swim audience would be like, this is great.
Yeah. I'd also think it would do better now when it would have been instantly merchandised.
Yeah.
Because Scroll Head as a pop figure is kind of a really fun idea.
Yeah.
But in 2006, there would have never been merch.
Right.
And, like, if it came back today, it could probably be really successful because people would buy stuff and it would survive on merchandise. Like, Hot Topic would save that show.
Yeah, it's true.
In 2006, I think it was the correct decision by Syfy.
Yeah, I still think it should have just run to another network, but...
Yeah. I think... I'm trying to think what 2006 Adult Swim looked like. Because I think it was just, like, that's still like just the Aqua Teen. No, 2006 a little bit later than that. So it's in like the Xavier Tom Goes to the Mayor era.
Yeah, I mean,
it might look too good. Well, Boondocks is there, so.
Yeah, I mean, 2006 is the year that gave us Assy McGee.
Yeah, it might be too smart.
I mean, this is when Frisky Dingo was running. Harvey Birdman.
Yeah, I guess it would do well.
Lucy, Daughter of the Devil, which I feel like this has some...
we should be doing it this month, and we're not. Spoilers.
I mean, we could. We don't have all 5.
Oh, do we not have all 5?
No, we don't have all 5 Spoopy episodes.
Comment below if you'd like us to do Lucy, Daughter of the Devil.
We actually only have watched 2 Spoopy shows so far.
I know, we have started our next show. And, Laura, what is our next show?
Our next show is the Cartoon Network miniseries Over the Garden Wall.
Yes, which is interesting. It's an interesting choice. In that, I believe it was a miniseries, so it was always going to stay doomed. But miniseries are only miniseries if they don't get renewed.
Yeah, looking at you under the dome.
Yeah, really hard.
Like,
you should have stayed doomed.
You should have stayed doomed under the dome.
Yeah, you should have all suffocated under that smoke that didn't have anywhere to go.
My biggest question with Over the Garden Wall is cliffhanger. Noah is looking at me like I'm the dumbest person on the planet right now.
Where can people find us, Laura?
Where can people find Over the Garden Wall or find us?
Us.
Okay.
Links will be below if you're looking for stuff.
You can email us at thestaydoomedshow@gmail.com. Shout out to Emily, who's emailed us twice now. Hi,
up,
Emily. We're reading them, I promise. Facebook at Stay Doomed. Twitter at Stay Doomed. And, yeah.
Yeah, let us know what spoopy shows you'd like us to do. And in November, we are doing backdoor pilots. So if there's a backdoor pilot you'd like us to watch.
To explain what a backdoor pilot is, because that sounds...
That's true.
That sounds a little more X-rated than we were planning to go. A backdoor pilot is an episode of an existing, often long-running TV series that is intended to set up another series.
Yeah, it's a secret spin-off pilot.
For example, because if we were going to do this, we would actually do the spin-off series, because this one went to series. Bones had an episode called The Finder.
Yeah.
And The Finder did go to series, but often they don't. We're actually going to do ones that didn't, because that's more fun.
Absolutely.
And most of those series don't run very long, so if we do the backdoor pilot series, they're going to get their own month.
Yeah. Well, it'll be fine. So, also you can, of course, if you want to talk to me about my headcanons for various shows that we have watched, I'm at TV's Noah.
And if you want to talk about how fun Amazing Screw-On Head is and how Mr. Dog is great, I'm at Priorities.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Stay Doomed.
And until next time, stay doomed. Spoopy.
Spoopy Mom.